Ever played a game that was amazing until the very end? Today we're looking at 5 fantastic games with endings that completely dropped the ball. From epic adventures that fizzled out to stories that just stopped mid-sentence. These aren't just disappointing, they're controller-throwing material. Let's dive into gaming's biggest letdowns. To explain player investment in games and the disappointment caused by unsatisfying endings, the psychological theory of self-determination can be considered. This theory focuses on 3 fundamental human needs: autonomy, competence, and relatedness. Players invest in games to fulfill these needs, and disappointment can occur when a game's ending fails to satisfy these psychological needs, leading to unmet expectations. Let me tell you about Fallout 3, a game that absolutely defined post-apocalyptic RPGs back in 2008. You emerge from Vault 101 into the Capital Wasteland, and immediately, you're hit with this incredible sense of freedom. The world feels massive, dangerous, and completely yours to explore. The VAT system was a stroke of genius. Nothing quite like watching a raider's head explode in slow motion, while Butcher Pete plays on Galaxy News Radio. And that radio DJ added so much personality to those lonely wasteland walks. The side quests? Pure gold. From deciding the fate of Megaton to tracking down your dad, who was voiced by Liam fucking Neeson. Sure, some of the animations were stiff as a board, and yes, those green-tinted metros all look the same, but the atmosphere more than made up for it. Fallout 3 isn't perfect. The shooting mechanics without VATs feel like throwing wet paper towels, but this game changed open-world RPGs forever, and I'll die on that hill. You fought through super mutants, raiders, and radiation, made all these meaningful choices throughout the game, and then at the very end, they force you into a binary decision that basically ignores everything you've done up to that point. Remember that final choice? Either sacrifice yourself to activate the purifier or send Sarah Lyons in to do it, and the worst part? If you had a radiation-immune companion, the game wouldn't even let you send them in. Instead, you got some weak excuse about destiny, and had to make this supposedly dramatic sacrifice that made zero logical sense. Sure, they later fixed this with the Broken Steel DLC, but we're talking about the base game here. The fact that they had to fix the ending tells you everything you need to know. It's like they ran out of time and just slapped on whatever ending they could think of. Such a shame, because the journey up until that point was incredible. Now for number 2 on the list, Far Cry 5 drops you into rural Montana, where a doomsday cult has taken over, and honestly, it's a blast. The game nails that perfect balance of serious storytelling and pure chaos that only Far Cry can deliver. You've got this beautiful open world filled with cult outposts to liberate, wildlife to hunt, and enough explosions to make Michael Bay jealous. The villains steal the show here. Joseph Seed and his family of psychopaths are genuinely unsettling, delivering some of the most memorable cutscenes in the series. Plus, the game finally gave us what we've wanted, a fully customizable character and proper co-op play that doesn't feel tacked on. Combat feels smooth and satisfying, whether you're sniping cultists from a distance, or calling in your diabetic bear companion Cheeseburger to maul your enemies. The game isn't without its issues though. The story has some pacing problems, and getting kidnapped for main story missions can get annoying when you're in the middle of something else. But these are minor gripes in what's otherwise a solid entry in the series. But just when you think you're about to take down the Seed family and save Hope County, the game pulls the rug out from under you. What happens next is the gaming equivalent of getting hit by a truck you didn't see coming. Far Cry 5 builds up this intense conflict between you and the Seed family, only to hit you with the most frustrating finale possible. You get 3 choices, and somehow they're all terrible. Either the cult leader was right all along and nukes drop, you walk away and get brainwashed, or you resist and still get nuked anyway. The worst part is how it completely invalidates everything you've done throughout the game. All those outposts liberated, all those people saved, all those hours spent building up Hope County, and for what? To watch it all go up in atomic fire? It feels less like a meaningful conclusion, and more like the writers trying to be edgy for shock value. The ending transforms what was otherwise a solid game into something that leaves a bitter taste in your mouth. It's not just bad, it's actively disrespectful to the player's investment in the story. Number 3 on the list is Deus Ex: Mankind Divided. It's a masterclass in cyberpunk world building, dropping you into a gorgeously detailed Prague that's torn apart by augmented versus natural human tensions. The game nails that signature Deus Ex formula: infiltrate, hack, and occasionally shoot your way through intricately designed levels that reward creative thinking. The augmentations are a blast to play with, whether you're turning invisible to sneak past guards or punching through walls like a chrome-plated Kool-Aid man. Each upgrade feels meaningful and changes how you approach situations. Prague itself is dense with detail. Every apartment, every back alley tells a story. The side missions are particularly strong, diving deep into the social and political tensions that make this world feel alive. And that soundtrack? Pure synthetic gold. But just when you think the game is about to deliver a mind-blowing conclusion to its intricate conspiracy, it does something that will leave you staring at the screen in disbelief. The game starts with so much promise. You're investigating this huge conspiracy, uncovering layer after layer of intrigue, and then nothing. The game just stops. It's like reading a great book only to find out someone ripped out the last few chapters. None of the major plot threads get resolved. The conspiracy? Still a mystery. The main villain? Barely dealt with. All these amazing story elements just left hanging in the air. What makes it even worse is that everything leading up to this point is fantastic. The game clearly had bigger plans, but it feels like they ran out of time or budget and just slapped an ending on it. It's not just disappointing, it's straight up incomplete. For number 4, I chose Borderlands 3, which took everything that made the series great and cranks it up to 11. The gunplay feels incredible. With over 1 billion weapon combinations, each firefight becomes its own unique light show of explosions and mayhem. The movement system finally catches up to modern shooters, letting you slide and vault around like a proper space ninja. Each vault hunter brings something special to the table. FL4K's pet builds are ridiculously fun. Moses' mech suit turns you into a walking artillery platform. Amara's powers let you feel like a space wizard on steroids, and Zane, well, Zane just never shuts up, but in the best way possible. The game absolutely nails the core loop. Shoot, loot, compare stats, shoot with better guns, repeat. It's addictive as ever, especially when playing with friends. The worlds are bigger and more varied than previous games, taking you from swampy backwaters to futuristic cityscapes. But after all those epic moments and fantastic gameplay, Borderlands 3 fumbles hard at the finish line. The ending feels rushed and disconnected from everything that made the journey great. The Calypso twins, who started strong as antagonists, end up being defeated in the most anticlimactic way possible. The final boss fight itself is mechanically fine, but the story resolution? It's like they ran out of ideas and just threw something together. Remember all those interesting plot threads about sirens, vaults, and corporate warfare? Yeah, most of them get wrapped up with all the grace of a drunkard in a china shop. What's really frustrating is how they handled some of our favorite characters from previous games. Without spoiling too much, certain character arcs end in ways that feel completely out of left field, betraying years of established character development. It's especially disappointing because the rest of the game absolutely nails the Borderlands formula. Oh, and of course, Mass Effect 3, the ugly stepchild that's slightly more tolerable than Andromeda, takes the top spot as the worst final quarter fumble of all time. The combat finally feels tight and responsive, with powers and gunplay working together seamlessly. The character interactions hit harder than ever. Watching these relationships we've built over 3 games reach their climax is genuinely emotional stuff. The multiplayer was a surprise hit. Nobody asked for it, but somehow it became this addictive horde mode that actually tied into the single-player campaign. Plus, the way they handled the Reaper invasion was intense. Seeing Earth fall in those opening moments sets the perfect tone for what's coming. Speaking of tone, the story carries real weight. Every decision feels crucial, because you know it's all building to this final confrontation. Your choices from previous games come back in meaningful ways, sometimes when you least expect it. Those moments when old friends show up to help, or don't, based on your past decisions, hit different. The game improves on almost everything from its predecessors: better graphics, smoother controls, more varied missions. Even the side quests feel more meaningful, directly tying into the war effort rather than just being random fetch quests. But then comes that ending. You spend 3 games making hundreds of meaningful choices, forming alliances, and solving ancient conflicts, All of this builds up to 3 nearly identical choices color-coded in red, green, and blue. Your entire crew stranded on some random planet. Those war assets you spent hours collecting barely matter. Even the extended cut couldn't fully salvage this train wreck. The worst part isn't even the limited choices, it's how they completely abandoned the series' core theme of defying predetermined outcomes. Instead, we got some space magic nonsense that still doesn't make sense after a decade of fan theories. It's like running a marathon, only to trip and faceplant right before the finish line. You need to watch this video about Are People Too Down Bad for The Witcher 3? And remember, seek to learn, not judge.